But let's talk about you for a little bit because you've been described as one of the foremost financial advisors for females. And I love how you have set yourself up that your role in the world is to help other people with their money fears, their sabotages, and their road and their blocks. So, can you maybe share with our audience from all the work that you've done, what are the most common fears, sabotages, and roadblocks that come to play?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have to say, though, I'm not a financial advisor. So I can't give any financial advice or anything like that. What I do help people, though, is to untangle some of these stories. So I actually have three kind of groupings that are a really good place to start when it comes to money mindset, because a lot of our fears or sabotages can kind of fall into these three buckets. And this is across all industries, by the way. So I've had a very varied career. So I've personally been in a lot of industries, but now in my job, I get people telling me all these stories and I see all the commonalities. And every industry thinks that they are the exception and they don't have to do money mindset work. That is not true. I actually also really love the property industry. One of my first kind of entrepreneurial gigs was creating actually a mindset program for my local estate agent in East London when I lived in London years ago. And I invested a lot in property myself. So I love this industry. The first big block that a lot of people have to start to unravel is this idea that you have to work really hard to make money. And I think what is really true about the property industry, anyone who works in property, especially stuff that's on the ground like property management, is like a hustle culture, right? And you have to work and you have to hustle and you have to work harder than the next person. And that's fine. That might be true for the industry for sure. But we all have our own personal relationship to work and money. So depending on how you grew up, what your parents did, you might have a story that, you can't ever rest. You can't hire help. You can't find shortcuts to make things easier. You might have had a family that didn't have a lot of money and had to work 5 jobs. You might have had a family that did have a lot of money, but build a lot of hours. And so we have to break sometimes this idea that we can't make things easier, that it always has to be hard. It always has to be a hustle, especially in the world that we live in now, where the technology can make things easier and we can create systems and streamline. Some of us resist those because we still feel like I have to work really hard for it. It doesn't count, or I have to hustle. And when that happens, and I see this sometimes in property, is a friend of mine was really hustling, selling houses at the lower end of the market. And a lot of people don't realize too that sometimes it's not extra work going at the high end of the market necessarily. Sometimes it's a shift in your mindset, right? Because you can have bad clients at every phase of income. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so sometimes getting in that mindset of like, oh, it would be the same amount of work, but the commissions could be higher. That is a mindset, right? But sometimes we resist that, and we resist finding ways to make things easier on ourselves. The second big block is I don't see this a lot so much in property, but I see this a lot in female driven industries. Okay. So you might see this in your audience, is this idea that I can help people and really care about them, or I can make money. And what happens when women go into a male dominated industry is that we don't want to be seen as being greedy or being salesy. And so sometimes we overcompensate by like going the other way, not having good boundaries with our clients, not standing up for ourselves, not being assertive, or we sabotage ourselves in other ways. So definitely I see this in industries that are undercharging, over delivering, trying to make sure that people like us because we want to show that we really do care, and we feel like it's like money or people, and you're allowed to have both, and we're allowed to do it. The third big block that I see is a sabotage around making more money because of fear of what it will bring. And I call this one more money, more problems. And I think everyone's got their own version of this. So for some people, it's like, I can't make more money because people won't like me anymore. They'll think I'm too big for my boots. For some people, it's, oh, I don't want to pay more taxes, or I don't want to like be responsible for
Yeah,
more
that's
money.
me. I don't want to be responsible for a bigger team.
Oh, okay. That's a good
Yep.
one.
Yep.
So that says a lot, right? I can hear that already and go, okay, then there are easier ways to do it and you can do it without a big team. But that might be your sabotage, that every time you get to a certain point, you go, no, I don't want to do it. And a lot of times this is completely unconscious. And I'll actually see people who are stuck and I'll be like, okay, what is it about this? And they don't even realize that they're under a tax threshold, or they'll have to start charging GST. And they're not consciously aware of it, but they're kind of holding back. Sometimes they're holding themselves back at their old salary for a job that they really hated, or someone else's salary, like their partner or their dad or their brother, and they're kind of holding themselves back too. But it's that feeling of, if I creep over, something bad will happen. And so a lot of blocks do fall into those categories, I find.
You just spoke directly to me, and I'm sure many of my audience, I can tick all three of those blocks. But one of the questions I want to ask you is, my audience is largely property managers, and a lot of them want to go out and start their own property management businesses. But the money is the biggest block from stopping them taking that leap of faith. What would you say to somebody, and how would they get themselves in that right mindset to overcome the fear to go out and start a business for themselves?
Yes. So I think what's really important for us to understand is that there are so many different ways you can run any single business. And so much of that is permission, to give ourselves permission to do that. So say, for example, you might think, there's only one way to do property management. And often I think people have probably seen that from the big agencies who are just like, 1 million people on our rent roll, and it's just like a system, right? And then everyone's competing on price, and it's just, that's the way it is. But like with a lot of different industries, you can think, well, who do I want to specialize in? What do I want to do? Do I want to focus on a particular type of property? And this is where you start to then have to give yourself permission, because you might think, oh, everyone's trying to compete on price, but some people might not want that. Some people might want a different level of service or branding, right? They want to be associated with a particular company. Sometimes it's about the personal relationships, and to not make assumptions that every business has to be run the same way. It totally depends on who you are and who you want to serve. And then obviously that becomes their differentiator. Me as a consumer, I am not always looking for the cheapest. I have a pretty big property portfolio. So obviously we've worked with a lot of property agents over the years.
Who's managing them now? I've got to ask that question. No, only joking.
That's a good. Okay, I was going to say.
No, I was only saying that because that would be the question all my audience would be asking is, who's managing them? But no,
yes,
you have to
totally.
disclose that. Yes,
No, that's
hustling for business.
That's funny.
If you're ready to be a super organised, focused and productive property manager, buckle up, because Colmio is about to revolutionise the way that you work. Colmio is the driving force behind property management excellence in residential real estate. Now picture this, a comprehensive end-to-end system designed to be the beating heart of your property management tasks, manage your properties, owners and tenants, and handle payments, inspections, and even marketing listings without leaving the platform. Colmio is designed to be an all-in-one solution to all your property management needs. And here's the game changer. Colmio isn't just software. It's been awarded the most innovative prop tech scale up in 2023. Yes, you heard it right. Colmio has been recognised for their groundbreaking approach to property management software. How good is that? So property managers, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, dive into the future of property management with Colmio. You can book in a demo with the team today and go in their weekly draw for a Prezi gift card worth $100. All you need to do is to head to the link colmio.com/thatpropertymum, and Colmio is KOLMEO.
But the thing is though, and actually Mark is the customer for some of those, who's my husband, and he looks for very different things to me. For me, I'm not always looking for the cheapest price. I'm looking for who is someone that I can trust to go do the thing and never bother me with stuff.
That's what it's all about. People
That's
want somebody that they can trust 100%.
absolutely. We also have an Airbnb, same thing. We've had managers who have taken over that whole property, and the ones who come to us and ask us questions, I'm like, no, I want someone who takes control. And then for me, I don't care about the little commissions. I'm not quibbling about that. And so it is looking at what can I offer that nobody else can offer, because the price is the price. And you can really create something special for yourself that's different, especially if you think, I can't compete with the big guys who have 500 properties. So I'm not going to, because I might burn myself out doing it that way. So I'm going to do it in a different way.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. Now, one of the things, and this relates to that question I just asked you as well, but one of the things that I know that I'm guilty of is playing it small. And I know a lot of my audience are the same. We think we're not worthy of more. We don't deserve more. I hear all the time, I'm just a property manager, which I don't like hearing. And I'm sure I've said it 1,000 times myself back when I was on the tools.
Yep.
So how do we show up and play a bigger game and become the entrepreneur that we really want to become, and with the lifestyle freedom that we all secretly are doing this for? How does that work?
So last week I was at my mastermind of peers, people that we kind of come together, and we asked each other this same question, right? Of like, what is the biggest thing you've done in your business, or the one thing? And I was sitting there really racking my brain to go, it was different things at different times. But then I went, oh, I know what it is. And it is always surrounding myself with the right people. Because when you are in business, it can be very lonely. And of course, you have to make all the decisions yourself if you're a solo person. And we don't know what we don't know. So I know what I've been excellent at is putting myself in rooms with people who have achieved what I want to achieve. And not even necessarily they're my mentor, but I might read their books, listen to their podcast. And there was one person in the room last week, my friend Leonie Dawson, and I said to her, when you shared that you made $30,000 from something, it changed my brain. And I remember saying to my husband, Mark, I was like, oh my God, come and have a look at this. This girl that I know made $30,000 from a launch. And half the room said the exact same thing. And Leonie's like, I don't even remember that. And it's because when you see different possibilities, one, you realize there's so many different ways to run a business, because you might put yourself in a room with someone's like, oh, I'm doing it like this. And you go, oh, maybe I can do that too. Or they're saying, oh, and I achieved this success. And you go, well, I know she's real. So if she can do it, maybe I can do it. And also there's like a bit of a monkey see, monkey do thing. And it is like that first person who broke the 4-minute mile. So many people did it straight away because it was just like, oh, it's possible and that's normal. So then if you see a woman who goes, you know what, I can run a team because here are the systems that I use. Or yes, I can run a business and have kids because these are the systems that I use. And they don't have to be in your same industry, but it can help. When I started having kids, I remember thinking, I can't hire a nanny. Like, what are my friends from, that I grew up in housing commission going to think about that? They're going to think I am such a snob. They're going to think like I'm an idiot. But then I went to a networking event and ladies like, oh no, that's fine. Like, that's going to be a really easy thing for you to do, to hire someone to come to your house while you run your business. It normalized it for me. So everyone listening, I mean, you're doing the great thing now by listening to Kylie, right? But it's like, get in the rooms with people who are doing and having what you have, like what you want and what you desire, because it will normalize it for you. But you'll also pick up strategies along the way and have permission too. So actually, when I was pregnant with my second kid, I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I remember going to VIP day with this lady. There was probably 20 of us in there. And she was like, oh yeah, this is what I did when I had my twins. And I just thought, that's all I needed from this event. Like, I was like, I don't care about any other strategy. She just gave me permission because she just shared some things about how she did her team. And I was like, that's all I needed. And that's what we as women do, right? We share from each other. We learn from each other. But if you're sitting at home or you're learning from people that you do not respect, or they're living a life that you do not want to emulate, And that's what happens a lot of times with women. If we don't have our own spaces, we burn ourselves out because we try and do it like men. It's really hard, but we learn so quickly when we see someone else do it.
We are such complicated creatures, aren't we, women? Really? And I love the work that you teach as well, because you do go into the science behind it. I know there's a bit of woo, and I want to dive into the woo because I love a bit of woo. But let's talk about the science behind manifesting and getting the things that we really want out of our lives.
Yes. So I read this book years ago called The Luck Factor. And it was a guy, Dr. Wiseman, and he did a study about luck because he was like, is this just something that people have? Is it something you can cultivate? And so he did a study in person where I think they put an advertisement in the paper to say, are you a lucky person? Are you unlucky? Whatever, come and do this study. And the study was only part of it because they were asking questions about how they feel like they're a lucky person, whatever. But they planted money outside of the research place, like on the sidewalk, in like just different places to see who found the money. And of course, overwhelmingly, the people who self-identified as lucky were the people who found the money. And I went to the Newcastle show recently with a friend, and we were going to play those clown games. And she goes, I never win anything. So she didn't play. She didn't even play. And that is one of the factors that he did in this study to say people who self-identify as lucky are the ones who actually put themselves forward for things. They actually put themselves in the game. And so you think of that of real estate, which can be such a numbers game, right? It's like if you think, I'll never be able to sell a house in that area, or I'll never be able to get that commission from somebody, you're not even going to show up. You just don't put yourself in the opportunity. And so then I think the other factors were like they expect that good things happen. And if they don't, they're just like, oh, well, there's another thing that could happen. And so he explains a lot of the science so much better than I can. But there is something in our brains, the reticular activating system, where it's like when you focus on something, you're more inclined to see it. So that's where we go, okay, you start thinking about getting a new car and suddenly you see those cars everywhere. Not because they're suddenly magically turned up, is because you've focused your attention on that. And so you see it. And so then if you reverse engineer that a little bit and to say, like, I do want to feel like a success. The more that you can put examples of success into your brain, the more you're going to believe it for yourself. And so that's where, like I said before, podcasts, going to conferences or events where people are speaking about success, you start to then expect it and look for it and believe that it's possible for you as well. So then you actually put yourself into the possibility, and then it looks like magic on the outside. And I talk about this a lot in my first book, Lucky Bitch, where I won this competition to go traveling all around the world, all expenses paid, for 6 months. And I really break it down to say, like, I wouldn't have even known about the competition if I hadn't put a post-it note on my office of like, I want to go traveling around the world. If I hadn't spoken to people about it, because my friend was the one who sent me the job opportunity, I wouldn't have applied for it if I didn't kind of go, that is a possible thing for me to do. And then all of the things I did to win it, you kind of go, yeah, it was inevitable. But from the outside, people going, oh, you lucky bitch. And it's like, well, no, I literally just, it was inevitable almost.
Can I ask you a quick favor before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate, and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow, or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.